Hey friends, welcome back to this episode of the Coleman Nation. In this episode, I'm going to share the top 12 things I learned or was reminded of in 2024. Maybe they'll provide some additional inspiration for you going forward in the new year. So let's get into it in today's episode of the Coleman Nation. Let's go. As many of you know, my wife and I are very proud parents of a beautiful baby daughter. Although she came along before 2024, basically the tail end of 2023, I realized during the year, this past year, that if I could go back earlier in my life and tell myself something, give myself some advice, it would be to have more babies and sooner. So that's the first thing that I realized is that we need more children in society. I see many good people out there, hardworking, good folks contributing to society. They should be reproducing. On the other hand, there are some people who just shouldn't have kids, and some of these people are choosing not to have kids. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's great. You're taking yourself out of the gene pool. I have a real issue with anyone who vilifies children or looks down upon them or says that the environment is too dangerous to bring kids into the world. I have a problem too with anyone who, quote unquote, couldn't imagine bringing kids into this messed up world. These are people that I don't want to be associated with, generally speaking, and let me just put it this way. I know that the world is messed up, but the only hope for making the world a better place is the children. It's you've heard it said, Whitney Houston, I believe that the children are our future. Right? And it's 100% true. And so if we don't have excellent parenting systems and an excellent family unit, I think that society is going to wind up breaking down long term. My advice to young people who are on the fence about having kids is to say, you can always get a good job, but you may run out of time in being able to have kids. Case in point, I read this article, and this is really interesting to me. This girl, she decided when she was young, in her early 20s, to freeze her eggs. And by the time that she was ready to have kids, late in her 30s, she felt like she was ready. Well, she couldn't get a viable embryo out of those eggs. And it was something where now that option was gone. It was over. There was nothing that she could do about it, even though she thought that she was planning. And she was devastated. I'm like, no, that is awful, And so I'm not saying that that's going to happen to everybody, but I mean, if you could go back in time and say, you know what? I should have more kids. I look back at my friends that were having kids in the 90s and I go, yes, I should have been having more kids, babies back then, because I feel that kids are going to be the building block of society. In fact, I think that society is more conducive to people having kids today than ever before. The reason why is there's a decentralization that's happening. Families are getting out of the city and looking for ways to live cheaper and be more self-sufficient. And so I really think that today's society is it, like we're figuring out that we've got to be more self-reliant. We're figuring out ways to work smarter with technology. One of the blessings in disguise of the pandemic was, oh, wow, a lot of work can be done and it's very profitable because of Zoom. Coupling that with being in the office and using Zoom is a new dynamic that wasn't there before. It has caused many industries to be able to rethink their efficiency. There's also a lot of upside potential with education online, media literacy, language, crypto, investing, and real estate. My point is this, there's so much at your fingertips as far as making money. There's so many different ways to make money that kids indeed can come first in today's, society, and you'll figure out everything else. I think that a lot of kids are very, youngsters, young people, they get worried that, oh, we're not going to be able to cope with it. We're not going to be able to cope with being parents. And what have our ancestors done for thousands of years is they've had kids and they've coped and figured it out. You'll do fine. The number two thing that I learned was in 2024 is that I always find a lot of comfort and gain a sense of calm by being creative. So I would tell you that you should engage in creative activities in the future, right? So for you, this could be writing music, learning an instrument, or learning a language. For me, it's writing and playing music. Learning new songs and learning an instrument they definitely helped sharpen my skills, in the past of being able to, be creative. This last few years, I really really stepped up my game with my musical theory. I started studying a lot more about musical theory, song structure, chord structure, musical structure, everything having to do with it. Some things that I was weak in when I was going to music school. So doing all that gave me a sense of calm and engaged a creative muscle, that was helping me to be able to find a little bit of peace. I realized looking back at different times in my life when I didn't focus on creative endeavors, when I finally wound up doing that again, I was always relieved to rediscover it. It made me more grounded, relatable, and internally it made me much more at peace. So I would tell you that number 2 is to make sure that you engage in some sort of creative outlet, whatever that is for you. The third thing that I sort of reflected on in 2024, closing out the year, is just becoming more self-sufficient. That would be one of the bullet points, is just work on your own self-sufficiency. One way is to learn farming, right? Now, not everyone will be able to go out and buy a farm, and that's not what I'm talking about. But even if you live in a city, just getting 20 minutes out of the city, you can generally find a couple of acres for almost nothing. Even in places like Los Angeles, there are spots of dead desert out in the middle of nowhere where you could throw up a couple of glamping tents and have some place off the grid where you could have a greenhouse if you wanted to, and learn how to garden and learn how to grow some stuff and grow your own food, etc. I recently, it was so funny, I decided that I wanted to start baking our own bread because I thought that would be really, really good to have control over that one specific, sort of staple is important. And no sooner than I had made that decision, literally an hour later, one of our friends showed up with, a loaf of sourdough prepped and ready to go. Says, hey, all you got to do is just kind of like, get it ready this way, fold it over, put some flour on it, score it, and put it in there. And an hour after I made the decision, we were baking our own bread, and I was really thinking about it. It's like, wow, this is a little bit of a lost skill. Being able to control and produce our own food. I think that is very, very important. So it's the whole concept of being self-sufficient and learning some lost technologies of self-sufficiency, whether it's farming, construction, cooking, or any of those types of creative activities that increase self-sufficiency. Number 4 is to attend life-changing events, seminars, conferences, and workshops. This hat is a case in point. It's Expand 2025, and I went to a fantastic, self-improvement, but personal growth workshop. It was like a 3-day workshop, goal setting, and just like different ideas about how to be able to, engage self-improvement with Grant Cardone. Phenomenal. It was a phenomenal workshop. But this is the thing about that, was that I made sure that it was both myself and my wife that we went together. And the reason being is that I told her this. She says, well, I don't really want to go. And I said, look, if I go and I wind up getting excited by all the stuff that's there, I'm going to come back and you and I are going to be vibrating at a different, level. I'm going to be buzzing around like all crazy and happy and like, super excited. And I'm going to try and convey that information to you. And then it's just not going to be the same as us experiencing it together. And so I would tell you, if you're married, if you have a significant other or whatever, that you should definitely go out to, conferences, workshops, and those types of activities and do it together. So number 5, which was related to that same thing, is managing your associations. When I was younger, there were times when I wanted to go to stuff. I'd tell friends and they'd crap on my ideas. And I said, I want to go to a real estate seminar, or I want to go to a 2-day workshop on business planning or something else. My friends would say, oh man, don't do that. That sounds super lame. They're just making money by ripping you off and you're going to these seminars and you have to pay for your own stuff. So I used to go to these like different, seminars and workshops because I was looking for something. I was looking to be able to improve myself and improve the opportunities that were available to me. So I did get taken to the cleaners a few times when I was younger. I'll be honest with you. And I learned some lessons. I remember I went to a workshop on phone cards. right? And why international phone cards were going to be the wave of the future. Me and my friends, we spent like a couple $100 on, we got this like deck of phone calling cards, which like as a concept, kids can't even relate to that now, with Zoom and all that kind of stuff. But I went to another one where it was $1,000 to get into this thing about building websites in the late 90s. It was kind of stupid in retrospect, but it had value. Right? It was one of those things where I was like, I'm going to go to this thing and learn about websites, right? And I could feel that it was like this scammy deal. But here's what happened is that actually wound up springboarding me into, one of my careers that I had as a freelance website designer. And that was literally one of the things that sort of painted the picture of the vision of what I wanted to, that would eventually wind up being something of a career for me for a few years. And I think that there's a lot of things that we can learn about. The world is constantly changing and we have more knowledge at our fingertips than we've ever had before. And I think it's important to be able to go out there and, find some of those things that are your interests. And if it's something that's affordable to you and it's something that aligns with your goals and it's something that you can include your family and friends in, want them to come with you, I say, you know what, go for it. But I was always hesitant at those times to do those types of things because I didn't have a good fellowship, a group of associations who are all moving in the same direction, right? So there are big dreamers, there are people interested and supportive of where you want to be in life. Go engage them. Go find those people in your circle that want to be able to grow and expand. Figure out how to align with folks who are in a position where you want to be further down the road than where you are, right? So you look at people and you go, okay, well, this is where I am and that's where I want to be, right? Who is there? Let me get some mentorship. Let me ask them some questions, right? Those who will encourage you rather than discourage you are very, very important and they're worth their weight in gold. So find people who are mentors, people that you can look up to, reach out to someone who's doing pretty well in life. And I'm just going to tell you this, they're all pretty approachable, especially with today's social media. I remember that I had a friend that she was just like looking at ways to be able to expand, her business. And I said, well, why don't you go find someone that, is really setting a great example and, in the industry that you're in or in life and ask for some advice. And that was the best advice that I could give her is because she went and did that and just opened up all kinds of avenues of expansion that were previously she didn't think that she would be able to get into, right? So controlling your associations. Number 5, controlling your associations and being around people that are desiring or at least supportive of your goals as far as personal growth is very, very important. And that's one of the things that I learned in 2024. Number 6 is to learn about preparedness, right? Self-defense and contingency planning. Learn about preparedness, self-defense, and contingency planning. The world has always been at varying levels of danger. I haven't done any research on it or, the analysis to say anything specific, but, the world's a more dangerous place than it was 40 or 50 years ago. I'm just making that statement, right? But you should always be at the ready no matter what. I'll give you an example. Recently in Florida, we were hit with back-to-back hurricanes. Even though we came out of it okay, it was not something that was, that I was that comfortable with. I don't look forward every year to hurricane season, but we were fairly well prepared. If our electricity went out, we had a generator. I hadn't used a generator in 25 years, so I had to relearn. It wasn't a big deal, but now I know, with the recent back-to-back hurricanes out of the blue, my neighbors were coming to me to help them, set up their generators. And I totally was able to, just be prepared for the worst case scenarios. One thing that I would always advise, always keep a flashlight with you no matter where you're going. Have one on your keys, in your backpack, or your purse, in your car, and nearby your bed. As a non-lethal weapon, a flashlight is useful even on someone who decides they're going to attack you in the dark. Lighting them up with a flashlight might make that person reassess the attack. I was watching this episode of that show, Night Agent. I don't know if you've seen that, but there was a scene where a girl got attacked and it was in a dark area and she turned on the flashlight and blinded the guy for just a split second. I mean, that's the type of preparedness stuff I'm talking about. Always be at the ready. There's always different types of things that you need to be able to learn and understand, right? So in general, I recommend taking some measures to prepare for various emergencies, no matter what they are. That's something that I learned in 2024 was being prepared for every eventuality. Now, You look at some of the stuff that's happening in the West Coast with the fires. I mean, that's almost something that you can't prepare for. Although there were some people, I remember reading an article that a guy just put one of those sprinkler systems on his roof and turned it on and left. And he was downhill. Everyone above him on the hill, all their houses were burned down. Everyone below him, because he made sure that his house was like, basically soaking wet. Not only did he save his house, but he saved everyone's house that was below him. And that was just, it was a stupid, easy $10 solution, but that saved millions and millions of dollars in damage, right? So that's the type of stuff that we need to be aware of as far as being prepared. Anyway, that's my advice on that. Number 7 is regularly review and set new goals. That is really important. I have my goals in my business plan, up in my bathroom, and I can look at it when I'm getting ready every day. We'll sit down and reassess what our goals are. I'll sit down and at the beginning of the month, I assess what all of my goals are, for business, personal goals, and all those types of things. Am I ever 100% on point as far as the planning is concerned? No, but the fact that they're written and I review them constantly, what does that do? It allows me to recalibrate and get back on point. So by the time this video is posted, my wife and I will have already gone, on our annual weekend excursion. We just went to DC, right? And then before that, we had gone on one other trip where we actually sat down and just plotted out what all of our goals are for 2025. And I mean, we're, a couple of weeks into 2025 and dude, we are cranking. We have so much stuff already done because we just planned it out, right? So what are our financial goals? That was some of the stuff. What are our family goals? Where do we want to be able to be? We recently bought a 10-acre lot of land in Central Florida. So we're looking at building our first iteration of our family farm, right? And that is an absolute learning experience in and of itself. It's the beginning stages of building something where we're becoming self-sufficient. How far could we go if we had our own livestock and produce, vegetables and fruits? We'll just throw a Starlink and a generator out there. We could become relatively self-sufficient. So these are some of the things that we have as our goal. Like we just went to walk our land this last week. It was awesome. But I also looked at it and I was like, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing at a 10-acre lot of land that's just overgrown with brush. So now I'm gonna have to figure out how to clear it. We're talking about, okay, well, what are we gonna build there? And so it's pretty cool to be able to dream those types of things. And you know what? It started literally 2 years ago with a dream and just saying, look, what are the things that we can do towards getting this, getting some land? And then we just started progressing there and we were able to make it happen. So make sure that you act on your goals and then reassess and take further action. That's how you win in anything. You take action, fail a little, learn, reapproach, and then take action again and do it all over again. And every time you fail a little, you learn a bunch and then you can reapproach and then execute even better. So I think that goals give you the bumpers to ensure that you stay on target throughout the year. Very, very important. Number 8, get involved in some way, shape, or form in your local politics. Last year, I went to Capitol Hill a couple of times and engaged with my congressional rep. I met with other Congress people, congressional reps there. And from my industry, I work in the financial industry. I sat with my congressional representatives and I talked about the things that are important to me as a business owner in my field. And I talked about things that were important to me as a citizen, right? And so we covered some things that showed examples of, how we help people and some of the things on the congressional docket that will be being assessed by Congress that will affect my field in the financial industry, right? And so I think that that's really important is if you go, man, I want to talk about education, get involved in local politics about education. I'm excited to talk about, Second Amendment rights, First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, whatever is important to you, you can go out there and start contributing. That was the biggest thing that I learned was we need to start contributing to our society around us. It can no longer be that it's other people doing stuff and it doesn't have anything to do with me. So I was also saying, hey, listen, I'm an authority in this area. And if you ever need me for something, you can always reach out. And I'm talking about advice, you're setting policy, you need some definitions of things, you need to understand some concepts. I'm a resource that I'm willing to help. I'm actually getting involved in policy making at a federal level for some of these things that are, important to me. And I think that we often discount ourselves and say, oh no, I can't make any difference. I can't, this is something that's beyond my control. I'm going to tell you right now, people in Congress, people in the Senate, people, our leaders in politics, our leaders at a city level, they want to know what's important to us. You have to be the one that says, these are the issues that are important to me. If you want to actualize change, start talking to the people. Go to a rally, meet some of the folks there, define your own goals. What do you want society to look like? Find other like-minded people and go make the world a better place, right? Do what you have to do to make your state, local, and federal government representatives great again, whatever that means to your definition. So in the past, I've mentioned there's a quote by a guy named Alexander Fraser Tytler, right? I've mentioned this many times before, and I'll paraphrase that again here. Nations have progressed through this sequence, right? Bondage, right? Slavery, bondage to spiritual faith, right? So they went from bondage, being slaves, to having spiritual faith, from spiritual faith to courage. Then they go from courage. This is the cycle of a society. They go from courage to liberty, liberty to abundance. Then society moves from abundance to selfishness, selfishness to apathy, apathy to dependence, and dependence back into bondage again, right? This is a cycle of society that he observed. And this guy observed this like hundreds of years ago. And I thought about it and I was like, man, can we just like skip to the good stuff? Can we like just jump past all the depressing stuff and just get back to, you know, some of the fun, growth, building, excitement of society? That's why I bring it up, is because if you know that we're going through, you know, one of the tough times, let's look forward to and accelerate getting to the good times. So it's a cycle that happens relatively often, about every 200 years or so. So we're right in the thick of it right now. But if you know that something is coming, you can actually do things to prevent it. Why do we have to let this cycle occur again? Let's do what we have to do to move us back to courage, faith, and liberty. If you make personal courage, faith, and liberty the things you stand for, you don't have to go down the road of selfishness, apathy, dependence, and bondage. I think that we're in a unique position right now where we can arrest the dwindling spiral and take some action to move society back into those areas, you know, of faith and away from slavery and dependence. So I'm just throwing that idea out there. If there's more of us, you know, sort of shoulder to shoulder effort, making an effort to be able to make the world a better place, I think we're going to be okay. Number 9, make new friends and reach out to people that you respect and admire and let them know. You could call up someone out of the blue and just say, hey, I was thinking about you, you know, about our friendship. I was thinking about you. Or you could just put this into a letter and even a little handwritten note card. You know, I'll ask you this. How often do we get a note card from someone? Right? And why not be the person sending out a little message, not an email, but a handwritten note? You can buy a bunch of note cards at Target. You can go to the 99-cent store, which I think is now the $2 store, but you can go to these little places and get these little note cards, right? And so I had some personalized, you know, sort of desk stationery printed up for myself, little cards, and I send them out to people, you know, and I've decided that this year I'm really going to make a concerted effort to send out little communications to people that I respect and admire, and just tell them that I respect and admire you and the reasons why and how they made a difference or a change in my life, right? So be the person who puts some good in the world by going out there and making new friends and reinforcing old friendships with new, fresh communication. Number 10 would be to take this to a more intimate level and reach out to and reinforce relationships with your spouse and your family. So the other one was sort of like, you know, number 9 was like going out there and, you know, building new friendships and reaching out and all that kind of stuff. But this one is to like the people that are closest to you. How do you define your relationship and what can you do to improve it? I was talking to a lady recently who just gushed about her husband. She said her husband doesn't traditionally remember birthdays and holidays, right? Anyone else guilty of that? I don't know. Anyway, but she said that he doesn't remember the birthdays and the holidays, but just randomly, when it sincerely captures him in the moment, he'll bring her flowers or a wonderful card or, you know, write her a letter or a poem or just some sort of like, you know, little thoughtful gift at just random moments. And I thought, man, that is so powerful, right? That you just do that as something to just lift up and empower your personal relationships. You know, I'll tell you this right now, think of the person who's most important to you and just do something, you know, to let them know that that's the case. You know, be a little something like, okay, send them a text message, a meme, or, you know, some funny little, you know, emoji or something like that. But even more so, sending them, the people that are closest to you, some personal sort of uplifting message or gesture unbelievable. It's funny because I've done that before. I just bought some flowers for my wife for no reason. It was some random night and I thought, you know what? I just feel like she needs some flowers today. And I just went and got some flowers for her. She thought it was just the greatest gesture and it was awesome, right? And so I'll just tell you, and this is the funny thing about it, when I went to the, to the store to buy the flowers, it was a sad state of society is that the lady that was checking me out, she goes, "Oh, someone did something wrong." And I was like, "Oh, dude, that's so sad. Like, it's so sad that you would have to think that I didn't do anything wrong. I just thought, what, I love my wife and I want to do a nice gesture for her, And so I just think that if we all started doing that more, then the expectations are going to be changed, that it's, buying flowers just because you did something wrong, to just a sincere reaffirmation, of one's fidelity and love for someone. I think that that's very, very powerful. So we have that ability to keep things fresh, within our own relationships. And by the way, it also extends to your kids and your parents. Let your other family, kids, parents, extended family know that you are thinking about them in a positive way. So number 11, seek a better understanding of the money game and look for multiple sources of income. Economically, we're coming into a profound and notable sea change. Not only has Western civilization in the United States, but as humanity as a whole is going through a profound transformation. It's hard to see it when you're in it, but there is an evolution that's occurring. I always think that there's great opportunity in every generation, but I think it's especially true for the next 20 years. No one's going to be able to survive well on a sole source of income nowadays. You got to figure out how to piggyback an additional source of income. It's important to begin being aware of the things that are out there. What are your interests and how can you monetize them? Think about some people and friends that you would want to be in business with and formulate ideas about how to do that. I have a lot of different businesses, including several businesses that, fulfill extremely universal needs for people. So that's something that we all need to be looking for, is you got to be able to look at, and this is something that I think is very important, how you look at the world and look at opportunity is going to be really sort of defining on what your opportunities are presented to you. If you look at the world as that there's no opportunities that are out there, they're not going to find you. But if you look at it, there's opportunities around every corner, suddenly those opportunities are going to find you. So I would just tell you, shift the way that you look at things and you'll be just fine, right? But there's a lot of things that are out there, a lot of new emerging industries. And this is something that I tell people, can you imagine? It is 2024. Did you know that in 2011, right, just 12, 13 years ago, 14 years ago, sorry, it's 2025. But the point is that just a little over a decade ago, the iPhone didn't exist. Facebook didn't exist, right? Like these companies that we are now like so dependent on. YouTube. I remember YouTube. I was just using it to, to learn guitar videos, right? So I'm just telling you right now, if you think of all the immense change that's happened over the last decade, think about what the next decade is going to look like. There's going to be a lot of room for growth and opportunity. You just got to be willing to look for it. And then the last one, number 12, is to read some good books, right? Most people never read after they graduate from high school or college. I certainly get busy, but I have a million more books in my library than I've had time to read in the last year or so. And I'm like, gosh, I got to just keep reading. Increasing our literacy individually, understanding new ideas and how to synthesize new ideas internally in order to contribute to society is one of the most valuable things that we can do as individuals. Learn things, create new ideas, discuss new ideas. There's the influx of information through social media and other, online avenues. It's too overwhelming. And reading gives you the time to process information and synthesize these new ideas and create your own thoughts and conclusions about stuff. We lose with the fire hose of data from the internet, right? You just lose. There's no way to take it all in. So take notes in your books, underline things, highlight stuff. What are the ideas that impress you and make an impression on you? So I'll just tell you this right now. These are the 12 sort of things I was reflecting, like, how did I evolve in 2024? And what are some of the things that I'm going to reinforce in 2025 to be able to expand at a much greater rate? And those are the 12 things that I either, learned firsthand or was reminded of, in the last year. But I want to tell you this, I wish you guys the very best in 2025 and beyond. If there's anything that we can add to that list, put them in the comments. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts, but let's do everything that we can to make 2025 the best year ever, line it up for the best decade ever, and so forth. But if you like this content, please hit like, and hit the bell to be notified, if there's another episode as we get them posted. And, I'll just tell you this right now. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode of Coleman Nation. Take care, everybody.